projects and programs best suited, to this country, to a developing nation like Nigeria. That is why when Bayero Agadi posed a question to me in Ibadan, I remember very well, it's a pity he's not here. What is your vision for the industry in this country? I did not have an answer. And I said, I will answer your question in due course. That is why when I returned to the commission, after that communications conference, I remember it was, decided to set up a committee that came up with the famous Strategic Vision Plan 1. Okay? You won't believe it. That was in 2015, 8 years ago. As we speak today, we have come up with another strategic vision plan. Because the first one was valid for the years 2015 or 2016, thereabout, to 2020. So before it elapsed in 2020, we decided to do another strategic vision plan 2. And this one is ongoing. What we did was to now recently is to align the strategic vision plan 2 with the strategic management plan of the commission for the years 2014. No, it's for 5 years. I think it's for the years 20 up to 2020. Thank you, to 2024. So we have aligned the strategic vision plan 2 with the strategic management plan, that is in existence at the moment. We decided to do this because it is necessary to look at the strategic management plan, be able to, understand that even the strategic vision plan 1 leveraged provisions of the then strategic vision, strategic management plan. What is the difference between the strategic management plan and the strategic vision plan? The strategic vision plan is an implementation plan, consisting of various provisions taken from the national working plan for the years 2013 to 2018. This was a plan that I met on the ground when I arrived at the NCC. 2, it equally leveraged the International Telecommunications Union plan for the same period of time. And the elements of the ITU vision plan were 1, sustainability of IT services, 2, growth of those services, and 3, inclusiveness of ICT services. So we leverage that plan of the ITU in the process of preparation of our strategic vision plan 1. We equally looked at the vision plan of the federal government, which revolved then around 3 elements: fighting corruption, provision of security, as well as creation of wealth through employment generation. That was also captured, in the process of preparation of the strategic vision plan 1. As they say, we have come a long way, and I'm sure many of you were around when we unveiled our achievement, or a document containing achievements of the NCC in the various items, and there are 8 of them, of the Strategic Vision Plan 1. This document is a book entitled Catalyzing Nigeria's Social and Economic Transformation Through Broadband Infrastructure. I wanted to bring a copy of that book, but you were all there, or your representatives were there, when this book was unveiled at the Digital Economy Complex in Abuja, together with the new Strategic Vision Plan 2. Okay, so on page 485 of that document, it's a book of about 550 pages. We have a table which elegantly indicated that spread over the 8 items of the SBP1, Strategic Vision Plan 1, item by item, from the first item, which is facilitating broadband penetration, up to the last item, which is strategic collaboration and partnership. I have this all in my head. Thanks, Ken, for having a retentive memory like yours.
Thank you, sir.
And it's such a, I feel it. We have one thing in common: serving the good people of this country, by defending their interest in our, the important responsibility that is bestowed on us, as well as making sure whatever information we give is verifiable. But I have it on my mind that it is not just about the vision plan that we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the milestones attained. And in this expanded presentation, this is a slides, which I will not have time, to be able to take. For the Strategic Vision Plan 1, we have 71. That's an average of 9 milestones per item of the agenda, the famous 8-point agenda, by which we come to know the Strategic Plan 1. For the Strategic Plan 2, which is just 2 years old, still 2 more years to go, you won't believe we'll have over the 5 items of that plan. And without taking too much of your time, I am going to, in respect of each of the plan, was the Strategic Plan 1, as well as the Strategic Plan 2, give a milestone that is the high point for achievement, in my honest opinion. And that will suffice. If we are looking for more achievements, then a copy of this presentation is here. 30 slides of achievements with 111 milestones, achieved over a period of this 8 years. As for the SBP1, we're still achieving. We feel after 2 years of unveiling of the SBP2, Nigerians have the right to ask, what is the progress, on the implementation of the new Strategic Vision Plan, that is the SBP2. So the first Strategic Vision Implementation Plan was for the years 2015 to 2020. And that one is rather consisted of 8 items. We call it the 8-point item of the plan, and it came to be known with the name 8-point agenda of the NCC. Okay? And the second strategic plan is for the years 2021 to 2025, and it has a total of 5 items. Okay, so you can call it the 5-point agenda of the second SBP2. And it is very, very important in this presentation to also speak, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, about the digital economy and the renewed hope agenda of the current government under the distinguished leadership of His Excellency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Because therein lies the bridge, as well as continuity between the previous administration and the new administration. And that bridge is contained in the document unveiled by the government with the title Renewed Hope Agenda. And of course, we'll conclude by perhaps expressing what our expectations are from the media as usual, as well as solicit more support and cooperation in order to enable us deliver on the mandate given to the NCC courtesy of the Nigerian Communications Act 203, which I must say to you is also undergoing a review as we speak. And this process of review has really reached advanced stage. We are lucky to have Paul Usoro and Co. to be driving the process of review because they were the ones who, in the first place, assisted in the design and articulation of that important document that is the Nigerian Communications Act 2003. We all know that telecoms and ICT critical infrastructure, or they are critical national infrastructure for national development. Telecommunications and ICT. And when we talk about broadband development, and by so doing transformation, we cannot achieve this by not having ubiquitous broadband infrastructure. And I think if I'm not going to be charged for talking too much. The International Telecommunications Union said in the 21st century, this is the century that we are now, any country wishing to develop socially and economically should embrace broadband or broadband infrastructure, should have broadband infrastructure in place. And they went further to say, build broadband, which they say should be treated as basic infrastructure like energy or power infrastructure, water infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. The argument by the ITU is that broadband infrastructure should be treated as basic infrastructure. And they went on to say, build broadband infrastructure and everything else will fall into place. The ability to provide healthcare to distant and isolated populations can be achieved when you have broadband infrastructure in place. The ability to give our children the best quality education. The ability to streamline transportation. The ability even to meet the sustainable development goals, SDGs. Okay? And went on to say there are other benefits attached to the deployment of broadband infrastructure. Well, they said everything else will fall into place. That deploy broadband infrastructure, and you have a four-way win. Okay? So the winners are four. The ecosystem of winners consists of about four elements. Government will win, okay? Citizens will win, businesses will win, and the society will be the overall winner. So that is why everywhere you look, when I speak, whenever I speak, whether it's extempore or when I present papers, in fact, the professor who did a review of the book we write stated the number of times broadband was mentioned. That is why it was appropriate for us to entitle the book containing our achievements for the SPP1 as catalyzing transformation, social and economic transformation of Nigeria through broadband infrastructure. It's quite apt, to give it that title. We all know that the dynamic with just an innovative changes in technologies and services, this characterize the dynamism of the telecommunications industry. New technologies emerge. We were talking about these emerging technologies So you won't believe that these technologies are here. Trust me, I'm not here to give you lectures. Some of the things I'm saying, you already know them. We were talking just a couple of months ago about 5G. MTN has successfully launched 5G services. Airtel has a 5G license, and they launched their services, I remember, on the 19th of this month. A new entrant into the telecoms market, the Nigerian telecoms market, has launched standalone 5G services as we speak, and they are poised to expand this, to include, countrywide, services, because they have the capacity to do so in terms of the resource that is required. They have the 5G spectrum, have also another spectrum that allows them to, achieve coverage, as well as, distribution, combine, characteristics of coverage in 2.1 gigahertz, which has been assigned to them, by the board of the commission. And here I have the commission, and I have in mind the Nigerian Communications Commission. We saw, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw the role that telecoms, played, even though they say that is history, but the results and lessons, of that history will remain with us a long time to come. In fact, when this country entered recession, okay, the telecommunication sector was credited to exit, the recession a year before, the forecast, by the World Bank. And I didn't say this, the experts, the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, the Bureau was one that said country exited the recession a year earlier than anticipated, thanks to the contribution of telecoms, to the GDP. We have seen this contribution to the GDP. I'm going to be talking about it in due course. But if I may, let me give you the industry statistics so that you can compare to what they were way back in 2015 when we came. As we speak, the statistics are as follows. Active voice subscriptions, 221 million. Voice subscriptions as we speak, and the number is still growing. Teledensity, using population of 100 to the GDP. We have seen this contribution to the GDP. I'm going to be talking about it in due course. But if I may, let me give you the industry statistics so that you can compare to what they were way back in 2015 when we came. As we speak, the statistics are as follows. Active voice subscriptions, 221 million. Voice subscriptions as we speak, and the number is still growing. Teledensity, using population of 190, we're going to raise this number, okay, stands at 118 or 115.9% as we speak. Active internet penetration and subscription, 159 million, approximately 160 million. Broadband penetration as we speak stands at 48.28%. It is important to recall, courtesy of SBP 11, we said facilitating broadband penetration. Those who will still remember, by 2018, going by the provision of that SBP, we were supposed to increase broadband penetration from 6% 2015 to 30% in the year 2018. That's almost a five-fold increase. And I think it turns out that hitting the target of 31.45% was the high point of the strategic vision plan 1. Because by the year 2018, exactly in December, the NCC was able to hit 31.45%. 5%. 1.45% percentage points above, the target we were given, and the target was 30% penetration at the end of December 2018. Now, on average, 8% every year. So when you start counting from 2018, now, what is of the new broadband plan, that is 2020 to 2025, and you have this 40% to attain, in addition to the 30, the two that will give you the 70% out. We're supposed to be hitting about 8% on average. Okay, so we're supposed to be by the end of 2023, we're supposed to have added about 24% to the 30 that we had on the ground. That will make it 54%. We're, however, at 48.28%, like 6 percentage points below the target. But it's still early days yet. Okay, we're just in the middle of the year, and it is quite possible to hit the target of 54% before the year runs out. When you add 16, that is 8% for 2024, and another 8 for 2025, that will give you the 70% that government, previous government, made a case for, and this government in position. So it's quite doable. It's not at all ordered. And going by the rise in subscriptions, especially with the rollout of 5G services, we're seeing the subscription numbers, grow. We're seeing subscription to broadband 3G, 4G services, steadily growing. And I think it's quite possible for us. Just like I predicted that we'll be able to hit 30% in 2018, I'm confident that we're going to be able to hit 70% penetration or even immediately after the year 2025. Contribution to GDP, by the quarter of 2023, it's 14.13%. Whenever you see the statistics being given by the National Bureau of Statistics in terms of GDP contribution to the economy, a lot of this, significant percentage of this contribution, when they make reference at the ICT and information and communication sector, a lot of this contribution, the bulk of the contribution, honestly speaking, comes from the telecom sector. Since I came, it has been rising steadily from about 8% in 2015 to about 14% as we speak, and it's steadily growing. So, on the 8-point agenda, for which we have 71 milestones, I've already stated that the high point of that agenda was the attainment of 31.48% penetration in 2018. Penetration, as we speak now, is 48.28%. We have record, because we're talking broadband, was fixed and wireless. We have about 40,000 base transceiver stations as we speak, and a total of close to 60,000 lanes of fiber, kilometers of fiber optic cable presently in the country. This is across the 6 undersea cables that have landed, those that are providing, last mile services, as well as the MNOs who do deploy fiber optic cables, from time to time. And this may not be yet, the pervasive deployment that we hope to see, but we're making progress, and there is a popular document of the government that says we need double this amount of fiber in order for us to have ubiquitous, broadband infrastructure for fiber. Then, of course, Second item of that SBP1 is improving quality of service. And we have for once acquired an equipment that enables us measure the quality of service for 3G and 4G. I believe we're going to acquire an appendage of this equipment that will facilitate the measurement of 5G quality of service. In order to improve quality of service, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is in existence clusters of access gaps in this country. Way back in 2015, we have close to, I think, 387, or a little over 300 clusters of access gaps, within which close to, I think, 40 million Nigerians live. These Nigerians are those who do not have access to telecommunication services. We live in rural areas, rural, underserved, and unserved areas of the country. Today, as we speak, we have reduced the clusters to only 97. So there are in existence 97 clusters of access gaps in the country, and the population within those clusters has equally reduced to about 27 million. And somebody will ask, what is the fate of those living in those clusters? Well, we have an answer to that. Many of you will recall we granted a license to Starlink to deploy high throughput communication services in the country. And this is really the throughput is high. It can give Nigerians a bandwidth of 100 megabits per second. Not even during the days of the SBP1 did we have this amount of bandwidth, and definitely the new national broadband plan talks about a speed of 25 megabits per second in urban areas and 10 megabits per second in rural areas. But here we have an opportunity to provide a massive 100 megabits per second through the deployment of high throughput telecommunication services in the country, covering substantial parts of the entire country, and especially changing the situation of those people living in the clusters of access gaps that I have spoken about 97 of them. The only challenge is the affordability of this high throughput communication satellite, because the terminal equipment costs about $500, and we reason that households can be able to contribute some amount of money affordable to them, to be able to have one terminal that will give each household a capacity of about 1.5 megabits per second, and you can be able to compute for yourself how many houses can one terminal equipment solve if such an arrangement could be worked. So we have the solution on the one hand, and on the other, we have decided to make sure that the solution is affordable to citizens of this country. The tariff structure or the highest throughput satellite communication services is denominated in Naira. Even the payment for the terminal equipment, you pay at prevailing exchange rate, in Naira. Okay. So we have that stopgap to ensure that people in clusters of access gaps are not completely disenfranchised from enjoying communication services, irrespective of where they are staying. We are not resting in our oars in trying to bridge those clusters of access gaps. More work is being done to ensure that even without high satellite, then satellite services is drawn, we can always rely on what we have deployed as our own, and ensure those services are sustained to all Nigerians, irrespective of where they live and what circumstances they find themselves. Third item on that agenda, that is the 8-point agenda is to optimize the usage and benefits of spectrum. And I'm sure many of you will recall the very, very courageous we took to reform, the spectrum, and as a result of that reflining and refarming, after you recall, we have granted license through an auction. That did not happen because the number of participants in the auction did not, warrant, conducting an auction. But the first one we attempted to do was a 2.6 gig auction, which MTN participated and ended up as the only bidder. Such they were given, I think, 6 slots of the 2.6, each about 5 meg bandwidths, giving them a total of 30, and that was what set the tone for deployment of the additional spectrum at the disposal of the NCC at the time. We have come a long way. We generated money through that license, and today the entire 14 lots of the 2.6 gig spectrum, those lots are gone. Okay? Airtel took about 4, making it 10, 14. 2, I think, went to Open Skies, and the remaining 2, again, Airtel came forward in order to boost their, capacity in that spectrum band. Then the fourth item under the 8-point agenda is promoting ICT innovation and investment opportunities. We have seen investments gradually rising. I don't want to mention the figure at the moment, but my mind tells me I should do so. It was about 38 billion naira in 2015. Now, according to reliable sources from the Central Bank of Nigeria, the amount has doubled, $75 billion. And with the unification of the exchange rate, I'm sure we're poised to see more investments, more foreign direct investments, into the sector, as we would also see in other sectors of the economy. But I trust the telecom sector is the fastest growing sector of the Nigerian economy, and we intend to benefit a lot from this merged, exchange rate, especially when it comes to the cost of spectrum. The spectrum fees are normally denominated in dollars. So you can imagine when we did the 5G auction, a lot, 100 mega hertz bandwidths went for $273,600,000. Now, when we go by the then exchange rate, that will give the federal government about 120 billion naira. Going by the current exchange rate, I don't know what it is today, at the point of the margin of the price of the exchange rate, the dollar was changing for about 750. To the 750 naira to the dollar. And we discovered that the spectrum fees almost have doubled from 120 billion naira to 204 billion naira. Okay, if that spectrum were to be sold today, and I want to assure you we have 2 lots still waiting, to be sold, then that would be the new amount, the licenses, the potential licenses for 5G spectrum would be paying, giving government more money, also empowering the NCC, because the government has approved, at least for this year, that we are entitled to a cost of collection of fees, including but not limited to spectrum, 12.5%, thereby giving, the NCC, more financial muscle to continue with its very, very important interventions in various parts of the country. For strategic collaboration and partnerships, for promotion of ICT innovation and investment opportunities, I have mentioned what the level of investments are into the sector, but ICT innovation is what comes through research and development. think we have endowed professorial chairs in about 8 universities, okay, to the tune of 20 million each. We have given research grants in addition, and all these are part of what we are doing to stimulate ICT innovation, through research. We'll move on to item number 5, strategic collaboration and partnerships. We collaborate with many agencies of government, principally CBN, the Civil Defense, as well as other sister agencies of government, but principally CBN and the Civil Defense in order to provide not only protection to critical infrastructure, but to ensure we arrest this persistent situation of sales of free registered SIMs. We acknowledge the important role that the Civil Defense is playing jointly with the NCC to ensure that all SIM cards are registered as demanded by law. Consumer protection and empowerment, ladies and gentlemen, in the 6th item under the old SVP, that is the SVP 1, we dedicated 2017 the year of the consumer. This country has never seen anything like that initiative. Okay, consumers were educated on how they can protect themselves, and they were empowered through codes, dedicated codes, to equally keep unsolicited text messages from arriving into their handsets. You remember the famous 2442? You can do a small tutorial. You want to protect yourself. If you are still not protected, just send help, capital letters, to 2442. Tell me what you see. This has been a very, very effective tool in the hands of the consumers to keep unsolicited text messages from coming into their handsets, and for which they're being charged to pay, okay, or payment, albeit in a very wrong manner, because the consumers who are recipients of these messages do not solicit for this. We have equally introduced the emergency toll-free number 112, and this number now is reachable. You can reach emergency help, whether it is federal road safety, you need to come to your aid, or hospital services, or if you like police, you want the police to come to your aid. You want ambulance service from our hospitals. The call dispatchers will know where to forward your emergency call for help. And we have these emergency communication centers now in 27 states of the Federation. We're supposed to cover every state of the Federation with this important facility. When I came on board in 2015, there were only 5 ECCs in the country. So now we have 27. And before perhaps the end of my tenure, just about 2 years ago, if I'm still allowed to continue, then it is expected that each state of the Federation will have a functional, fully equipped emergency communications center, ECC. Fair competition and inclusive growth. We ensure that competition is allowed, courtesy of the provision of the Act. We have subsidiary regulations promoting competition. Telecommunication companies can apply to vary their tariffs within a range approved, by the competition regulations. There is normally a ceiling and a floor within which they can do this. This has already been approved by the board of the NCC, and this subsidiary regulation drive their power from the Nigerian Communications Act. We have other regulations, but this one is concerning fair competition. Inclusive growth. Like I said, borrowing from the provision of the ITU, we are supposed to ensure inclusiveness in growth, or inclusiveness and growth in the provision of ICT services. Inclusiveness to ensure that no part of the country is deprived of telecommunication services or ICT services, if you like. So these services must be seen to be pervasive. No part of the country should be left out, and therefore there's no room for any digital divide between one part of the country or the other, or between one group of people or the other. Okay. So we are supposed to see the blurring of boundaries of social identities, as well as boundaries that are physical. Okay. All those have no place in the way and manner, telecommunication services, or by extension, ICT services are provided. And then the growth. We are supposed to be seeing growth of these services because the population is growing. There are more demands for these services, and we are supposed to ensure, that the provision of services keeps in tune with the growth of the population, as well as demand for those services through businesses and generally, by the demands of, society as society evolves. Of course, we have done so many things to promote regulatory excellence and operational efficiency, and this can be seen from the one or two awards we received, one from the Bureau of Public Service Reforms that assessed the NCC at platinum category, for the way and manner we have been carrying out our services, attending to various requests of both consumers and operators. And the ICPC again recognized the commission where we rank at position number 8, among the entire MDAs, and number 1, in the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, the number 1 regulatory agency of government under the ministry, and the number 8, in the ranking of all MDAs in the country. These are entities, that are not owned by government. But when you move gradually to the year 2020, the SBP 1 lapsed. Okay, so we decided to draw the curtain, but we have not forgotten about aspects of that plan that we have not implemented, or we have not implemented fully. Okay, so we decided to do another strategic vision plan 2. That is an offshoot of the strategic vision plan 1. And the items there, before I conclude, number 1, organizational renewal for regulatory excellence and operational efficiency. Okay? And we have seen again how the NCC has, set the face, in the area of ensuring revenue generation, to the federal government. Only yesterday, I was with mobile network operators and digital services providers at the Lagos Zonal Office to unveil the implementation of the expanded revenue assurance system. Hitherto, we normally rely on the books of accounts of MNOs and other service providers to compute the annual operation levy or operating levy payable to the NCC. We have no independent way of verifying whether the amount being paid is AOL. AOL stands for annual operating levy, or whether it is the correct amount, we're paid or not. Now we have an independent, reliable system that will be able to tell us, whether the amount paid is AOL, is the correct amount, or whether it is not the correct amount, and therefore the operators and digital services providers will need to pay a little bit more, or perhaps a little bit less. We made sure that the application of the ERAS, which is, the acronym for Expanded Revenue Assurance System, that application is not a retrospect. Okay, so even if the telcos, by whatever means, are discovered to have owed the government, we'll try to prevail on the government to draw the line between what happened in the past, and what is going to be happening as we deploy the ERAS, to be able to do the verification on the actual amount of money that should be paid to AOL. Should be paid as AOL, to the commission and by extension to government. That fosters national development. There's a very lengthy statement of that item. Many members of staff of the commission don't even remember. It's too long, to remember. But the EBC has to remember as much as possible everything. So I've given you the true statement of that item. And again, this takes us back at the provision of the National Broadband Plan, this time around too, for the years 2020 to 2025, with which alignment we came up with the SBP2. In the same way, we came up with SBP1, that relied on provisions of the National Broadband Plan 1. SBP2 was equally designed, articulated, designed, and unveiled by relying on provisions of the Nigerian National Broadband Plan for the years 2020 to 2025. And that one has the provision for attainment of broadband penetration of 70% by the year 2025. To also have internet speed of 25 megabits per second in urban areas, as well as 10 megabits per second in rural areas. Two, there's another provision there, to at least 90% of the population of the country. That's an ambitious plan. Okay? And I'm glad with the way and manner the government of President Tinubu has aligned with that plan and stated under the New Hope agenda document that they identify with this important provision of the National Broadband Plan 2, and they hope to witness the attainment of 70% broadband penetration by the year 2025 indeed. We are at 48%. I've done all the arithmetic for you to be able to know where we are as we move to that important target. I do not need to really belabor the point. So I have spoken at what we're doing to bridge access of clusters of access gaps, the provision of license to Starlink, SpaceX, to provide high throughput satellite communication services over the entire country, and the attempt we have made to ensure under that second item of the agenda, the harmonized right-of-way rate of 147 naira per linear meter, or kilometer, sorry. Linear kilometer is adhered to by all strata of government, federal, state, and the local government. We have seen, I have explained this, clusters of access gap coming down to 97 clusters as we speak, and within those clusters, there are still 27 million Nigerians. And you may ask, what measure have we put in place, even if it is a stopgap measure, to ensure that these Nigerians living in those clusters are not completely disenfranchised? So one of the solutions is the deployment of high throughput communication satellites over the entire country. That satellite is there. People are daily subscribing to the services of Starlink, and there is one or two things we need to do about cost in order to make this affordable to many Nigerians. The third item of our new agenda is promotion of pair competition, inclusive growth. You can see this is again something that spilled over from the SBP1, okay? And increased investments and, innovative services. And in all this, there's nothing that can compare to the efforts we have made in order to ensure, the growth of innovation in the digital space in this country. We have a program, as I speak, that is covering the entire 6 geopolitical zones targeted at the youth. Provide them with training. After the training, each youth has a laptop given to him or her, and then there is an uptake, some amount of money given to them to the tune of, I think, 20,000 naira, and a MiFi to enable them access services. This has been going on over this past 3 years since the introduction of the plan, and I have got reliable information about the impact of this important intervention of the Commission. Just now, the Chief Executive from Vanguard indicated to me that they have exhausted their is it cloud capacity? Therefore, they would want more bandwidth, to be provided. And I said to him, I will promise, to look into this. It just shows you that no part of the country is left for this important intervention that is intended to drive innovation. Because the telecommunications network, ladies and gentlemen, is not just a means of mere connectivity. It's just a means of, you connect, you talk, you send, messages, so on and so forth. It is an important source of data-driven innovation, which if the use can bring a lot of potential for value addition to businesses and indeed society. Okay, so contribution to GDP for the past quarter of 2023, that is the quarter that has just passed, 14.13%, and in monetary terms, this is equivalent to 2.5. It's not billion, it's trillion. Okay, it's trillion, right? So please make that correction. More spectrum orphaned. We have gone, in fact, into the millimeter wave. Remember, we were at the mid-band. Mid-band is 3.5. From 3.3 megahertz, gigahertz, up to 3.9 gigahertz. That is what we classify as mid-band. Okay? And so far, out of this mid-band, we have licensed about 3 lots already. One for MTN, far through auctions, and often uncredible auctions. And the other one was offered or assigned to Airtel, but at the cost of the auction price. So 3 of this spectrum. This, generated for the federal government $820 million. We've never seen an auction of that kind in this country. It surpassed the auction conducted during the, what do you call it? In the days of Econet and MTN, when they got, the slots, when the license, the operational license and the spectrum for $285 million. Okay, over a period of 15 years, this one is over a period of 10 years. When you do your computation, you find this amount generated surpassed that amount generated during the mobile license regime that saw the telecommunication services being ushered in this country. And it was the first auction that is truly indigenous. Okay? It was initiated, conducted, and concluded with full complement of members of staff of the commission. There are even issues of electronic sweeping so that information did not leak, and it didn't. At the end of this successful auction, even Airtel that lost out after the final round, it went, by the way, 11 rounds. No auction has gone that length. No spectrum auction has gone that length in this country. This one went 11 rounds, and Airtel decided to exit. Therefore, the two entities that remained were MAPAV and MTN. And those got the 2 lots. But I'm happy to say, MAPAV, Airtel got the license as we speak. They have a mid-band spectrum, I think 3.7, 3.8. And still we have 2 lots, 3.3 to 3.4 at current market cost, okay, as well as 3.5 to 3.6. So government stands to reap more spectrum, benefits in terms